Hi everybody, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling. Thank you for tuning in for this episode. Before I get started with the actual episode, a lot of people have asked me if I could just do a quick turnaround with the camera of my music room. And I've never done that before because quite frankly, I thought it seemed, look at me, look at all my stuff. It's not like, I guess people really want to see my setup in here. So I will do that. I will narrate from behind the camera for a change. All right, so this is actually where I film. I sit here and I place my phone right about here and I have the lamp on me so I get some light, and that's where I film from. So that's actually Marley's record player. I've borrowed it. Nice autograph poster there from our good friend James Mullinger. Thanks, James. These are my 8 tracks. Yes, and there's more coming. That's why there's spaces there, by the way. My daughter Marley took a lot of my old band shirts that were getting faded and made them into little canvas art things. Did a good job with them. There's a bunch of those here. Some Kiss collectibles here. I have a few Kiss collectibles, but not nearly somebody like Will would have, for instance. He should show his stuff off. On this wall, this is my CDs, including, I always wanted to have somewhere to display the CDs and then the box sets in the proper order that they came out in. And so yeah, some guitars there. I got guitars here. Pretend to play. I hope you can hear me. Here's my vinyl on this shelf here. I've got them braced with 2x4s because there's a lot of weight on them. More t-shirt on canvas art here, and a few spare records of mine that I've got up in frames. Let's see. My cassettes over in the corner here. And over on this wall, ticket stubs, the shows I've been to. If you saw the special episode Matt and I did on Def Leppard's Hysteria, that's the collage I put together. And over here, this shelf contains my music DVDs, a few magazines, and just odds and ends. And that's basically my music room. All right, so I hope that was what people wanted. So on this episode, it's a reboot of, I think, one of the very, very, very first episodes I did, which was a look through my Queen vinyl, shot from way over in that corner, and I had a totally different setup. So I've got more vinyl since then, so I'm going to go do an updated look at my Queen vinyl. The very first thing I want to show you is actually from 2011. It's a reissue because it was a 40th anniversary thing, because it actually formed in '71. And I think this was a record store day thing. This is a reprint of the very first Queen single, Keep Yourself Alive. And as you can see up there, it's the 40th anniversary crest, marking it as not original. Also, it's on Hollywood Records. It's actually, it's one of the last things they did for Hollywood Records, I believe, before they switched to Universal. So there you go. It actually says sleeve based on the original Portuguese 7-inch from July '73, and it wasn't sealed, so that is what it looks like. Which leads into the first Queen album from 1973. And the copy I have it's Canadian, but I actually think it's a reissue, and I'll show you why. I think the original was probably a gatefold. So there it is, it's front cover and the back cover. So I think that originally it gatefolded, but I'm not sure. But also, it's got this maple leaf up in the corner, which We in Music in Canada wasn't doing that in 1973. That was something they did in the 80s. So and also this is in really, really good shape. So I think this is an issue from the 80s. So there you go, front and back cover of that. I don't know if there was a lyric sleeve that came with this originally. My copy does not have one. And that's what the Elektra label looked like on Queen Records at this time. So there you go. Second Queen album, 1974, Queen 2. Also a Canadian edition, and I think this one is an original. And it's also a gatefold, because it folds out like so, and when you flip that over, it looks like this. And this one didn't come with a lyric sleeve. It has a lyric sheet. So that's side one, which is the white side, side two, which was the black side, and I guess all the information about the recording of it was on the back of the album. Plain white sleeve with this, and the record itself looks like the first one with that label on it from Elektra. Third Queen album, also from 1974, Sheer Heart Attack. This is also a Canadian edition. Some ring wear on this one. I don't know if it was a gatefold in the UK, it probably was. This one is not. Here's the record itself. This one isn't a clear sleeve, although I have no way of knowing if these were the original sleeves or not. But it did come with this, which is a little poster type of thing. So it's got band photos on this side, and on this side it's got lyrics. Next, of course, is the big one, A Night at the Opera. And the copy I have is actually a US copy. This is Night at the Opera. This is embossed, or it's raised. It's pretty cool, very striking. You can tell the new reissue, it's very, very, very clean, very white looking. This one, you know, just the wear and tear on it, you can tell it's stained in a few places. And for some unknown reason, somebody wrote a D down the bottom of this corner. And this one is a gatefold. There you go. If you have the CD, any of the remastered CDs, you recognize all of that. And there's the record itself, same Elektra label. The next thing is out of order year-wise. It's actually from 2015, and this was either a Black Friday or a Record Store Day special. It's a reprint of the Bohemian Rhapsody single, which of course is actually the Queen 2 cover. And like the original single, the B-side is I'm in Love with My Car, and this is still sealed. So the next studio album came out in 1976, very much a companion album to A Night at the Opera. It is, of course, A Day at the Races. Now this one, this copy that I have is not embossed. It's just flat. Nice shape though, really nice shape. This is another US copy. And it's a gatefold. And the sleeve that came with this is actually nice cardboard. It's not paper, so this is still in really good shape. So it's got this here, and the band photos here. Still no personalization to the record labels themselves, which is kind of surprising, because by now they were a pretty big band. If I had UK pressings of their albums, it might be a different story. One of my favorite Queen albums, 1977, News of the World. This is a gatefold. It's a Canadian copy. This has a little bit of ring wear, and it opens up like this. Oh, well, first, like that, and like this. And lyric sleeve with this. It's a Canadian copy. I don't know if I said that already. Same Elektra logo. Very prolific, you know, album a year, and in the case of 1974, 2 albums. 1978, the next Queen album was Jazz. This album is infamous because, well, this copy that I bought has the hype sticker taped to it, so I never tried to remove it. Includes Bicycle Race, Fat Bottom Girls, and a 4-color poster of the start of the nude bicycle race. This is not here. This is probably on somebody's wall, the poster. I'm sure most of you have seen it. There you go. And it's a gatefold. I love this gatefold. Just a beautiful mess of instruments. Love that studio shot. And, you know, Freddie just chilling out on top of the piano. Yeah, this is a really, really cool shot. I'd like to have been a fly on the wall as this was, you know, taken. There's the sleeve, band photo, and a list of the songs. No lyrics in this one, actually. And for the first time, there is a personalized label. So it took until this point to get a personalized label. Okay, 1979, the first Queen live album. And I have a Canadian copy here. This is Live Killers. That's got a fair amount of ring wear on it too. This is a double album, gatefold. And by now, WEA, Warner Elektra, Atlantic artists in Canada, their records came out with a Maple Leaf, and that lasted till about 1984. This is a superb live album. There's lots of cool shots on the inside here too. One of the many things I love about vinyl. And the sleeves are cool. This one is red, completely red on this side, and well, actually, this is the second half of the write-up about the shows, and the records have a member of the band on each side. So that has John Deacon on that side, Roger Taylor on that side. So the other one, which I suppose is probably sides 1 and 2, is green. And the write-up starts here. It's clear green on this side. And this one, of course, would have Freddie on this side and Brian on that side. By far the most common Queen album that if you find used records, not reissued ones, the most common one that you see came out in 1980. It was their biggest, I believe it was their biggest selling studio album. The Game, this was their most mainstream album. A couple of big hit singles off of this one. This is a Canadian copy on Elektra. Maple Leaf up there. This is a pretty common album. Sometimes you get it so that it's completely silver, sometimes it's not. It just depends. Here's the lyric sleeve, band photos, and there is a certain amount of customization, but it's very plain. And also this copy of The Game that I have is quite scratched up. Got a lot of scratches on it. And I have a single from this album to show you too. It's not a picture sleeve. It's just a Canadian single for Play the Game. This is a standard WEA label sleeve with it. The B-side is not on any album. It's Roger Taylor's song, A Human Body. Now I have this on the CD reissue of The Game. Also in 1980, this was a record that took me a long time to find. You don't see it very much. They did the soundtrack to the movie Flash Gordon. And it's a very striking cover. This was obviously a cutout because it's got a hole punched through it, and obviously a Canadian issue. I like the fact that the maple leaf is yellow. That is Sam J. Jones as Flash Gordon from the movie itself. Cheesy but fun movie. I don't know if this is the original sleeve, but the label itself, as you would imagine, is quite striking, quite yellow, and it's got a single sheet with it. Max von Sydow as Ming the Merciless, and information about, well actually it's the cast of the movie down here, the song titles, and the lyrics to Flash's theme. 1981, one of the finest greatest hits albums ever released. I've got a Canadian version here of Queen's Greatest Hits. Different song lineups, is a whole saga about Queen's Greatest Hits, where you get it, when you got it, what songs are on it, but you can't go wrong with any of these tracks on here. Under Pressure appeared for the first time here, and I like the sheet that came with it. There's a write-up in each song, and it's pointing to the album it originates from, and since Under Pressure ended up on the next album, but that album didn't exist at the point, it's just kind of loose there. And down at the bottom on this side says, Queen Greatest Flicks, a video cassette of Queen's films, is now available from video outlets and major record stores. 1981 home video release, it probably cost $80 or more. And that's the label itself for the record. Next up is kind of a curiosity. Like, I don't open my vinyl when I buy it when it's sealed, but usually it's new. Every once in a while I'll find one that's an older vinyl that's never ever been opened, and that's the case with this one. This is Hot Space from 1982. Now this album was not successful, so it made sense that it would end up in the cutout bins, at least in the US, which is what this is. This is a US copy. It was the last studio album, or last album they did for Elektra. It's got a price tag on here, $3.99. It obviously been marked down, and there's the back cover. Now, I'm a little skeptical. I have no doubt that this was a cutout because there is a chunk taken out of it, but if you look, I don't know if you can tell there, but this has been resealed, because if they took a chunk out of it, it would go right through the plastic. Someone's rewrapped this. So you're saying, well, you might as well open it. Well, I'm not going to. Next up is, I love this album. This was the first album they did for Capitol in EMI worldwide. And of course, I'm talking about The Works. This version that I have here is a Canadian copy on Capitol. It's actually a Columbia House copy. It's a little bit of damage here on the back. Something sticky was on it when I bought this, but other than that, it's in pretty good shape. There's a curiosity in these sleeves. This was crimped a little bit, but I like the red color with the gold on it, and there's all the lyrics. Now, down at the bottom where it's got copyright information, it lists the song I Go Crazy. Now, I Go Crazy does not appear on here. That was a song written by Roger Taylor. No, it was written by Brian May, I'm sorry. It was a great rocker. It was the B-side of Radio Gaga, and it appeared on the Hollywood Records reissues, and then the newer ones that came out after that. But it did not appear on this album, but it's got listed on here, so it's a little bit of, I think they missed something there. This is a fairly scratched record, too. Got a lot of scratches on it, but that's what the label itself looks like. Next Queen album, also another one that was hard to find for me. 1986, A Kind of Magic. This is a US copy on Capitol, and it is a Columbia House issue. And oddly enough, for an album that came out in 1986, it's a gatefold. So it folds out like that and like that. There's the lyrics, and there's the credits, photo of the band, and more of the artwork. And that sort of the artwork continues, at least the lettering, on the record itself. The next record I have to show you is one of my prized vinyl possessions. Later in 1986, Queen released the live album called Live Magic. Now, by this time, they weren't touring in North America at all. The last tour they did in North America was the Hot Space Tour in '82, the last one with Freddie. But they were still big all over Europe and most parts of the world. So the Magic Tour was very, very successful for them. Of course, it was the last tour they did with Freddie. They documented it with the live album, Live Magic. The album was not released in the US. However, Capitol Records of Canada did put it out. And the reason this is unique is because Canadian releases by international bands are usually exactly the same. It's on a different numbering system, a Canada-only numbering system, the 6000 series. If you're a big Beatles fan or a Pink Floyd fan, you know all about the Capitol 6000 series. It's unique releases, and this is a very unique one because there's a Canadian version, but there's no US version, and it's not a Canadian band. So I hope that makes sense. But anyway, so this is a copy of Live Magic on vinyl. Must have belonged to a radio station or a record store, 'cause it's got a hole punched through it. And yeah, it's also a gatefold. Very cool. It's pretty much the same concert that I think that came out eventually, just called Live at Wembley. It's just a single disc version of it. And there's photos of the band, some information. And the record itself has no personalization on it. That's simply what Capitol Records releases looked like in North America in the mid-'80s. So the next Queen album to come out was in 1989. The Miracle. And this is a US copy on Capitol Records. This is very glossy cardboard here. It's not a gatefold. And so there's the lyrics and photo and credits. And the record itself is fairly plain, but it is personalized. And that's the newest Queen vinyl I had the last time I did one of these. I have a lot more to talk about now. 1991, the final Queen album released during Freddie's life was Innuendo. This is a 2011 or 2015 reissue on Universal. Virgin EMI to be exact. And this is not opened. It is a gatefold, and this actually came from HMV, which is no more, at least in Canada. So, yeah. And, you know, it's really easy to spot issues of older albums if they have a website listed down below. So I kind of hinted earlier the whole greatest hits, track listing, differential. Same thing holds true for Greatest Hits 2, also known as Classic Queen. It's a bit of a mix-up over what was what. And curiously, in 2016, they reissued on Hollywood Universal Greatest Hits 2. So Classic Queen never existed on vinyl. This is the closest you're going to get to it, because it looked exactly the same, and the track listing was pretty similar. And it's not open, but I can tell by feeling through the plastic that everything on here is a little bit embossed, which is pretty cool. And the last new Queen album with Freddie came out after he passed away. Material he'd been working on, or versions of songs that had originally appeared on solo albums by Freddie, Brian, or Roger. Made in Heaven. This is so it came out in 1995. This is the 2015 reissue. And I don't have this opened. A couple more things to show you. There are other releases that I don't have, but I got a couple more things here to show you. In 2014, they put out a really, really cool live document of early Queen from the Sheer Heart Attack tour, live at the Rainbow 74. I have this on CD and I also have it on DVD. It's great. It's a great performance. And there are also some songs on here from the Queen 2 tour, so this is Queen in 1974, in March and November of 74. It's heavy. They get some of their heaviest material on here, and they were a young band. This is just a great, great document of this band at this time. And it's not the last time they did that. They did Night at the Odeon, and then they did On Air, and I hope they continue doing this. So there's a little bit of explanation about the album. And this is an American copy on Hollywood Records. And the last thing I have to show you is just came out in 2018, and of course, you may have guessed, it is the soundtrack to a movie I love, Bohemian Rhapsody. And this has, you know, I did an episode dedicated to this and talking about seeing the movie. This is simply the vinyl version. There's nothing different on here, and there's nothing missing. I love the fact that the Live Aid tracks are pretty much all of side 4. Yeah, great movie. Still enjoy this one. So there, that is my Queen vinyl collection up to date. And what are your favorite Queen albums? If you've got any Queen stories, just leave them in the comments. Love to have a discussion going about one of my favorite bands. Thank you for watching Tim's Vinyl Confessions.